Hey, how's it going? Lewis here from Monster Tech, and today I'm going to bring you the first part in hopefully many of our gaming and tech related news updates. And we're going to be talking about loads of different things, whether it comes to new game releases, new tech releases, some of the stuff that's been going down on the Monster Tech channel, and just general news that's been going around on the web. So let's jump straight in with our first news article. Now, as far as rumours go, I stumbled across a rather big one when I was wobbling around on the internet. Skyrim. Now, Skyrim could be having a multiplayer update. Now, whether that will be just a genuine update, you can play multiplayer straight out of the box, or they're going to be bringing a whole new game out specifically for multiplayer. It could not even be Skyrim, it could be a completely different game, but there are talks, or something is in development. Now, themselves, they haven't actually said whether this is legit. That they never were going to say whether it is legit, but there's some massive rumors going around that it is. And how cool is that? Like, I would love to troll a troll with my mate. That would be so good. I think one of the biggest things that they've missed in their games, and this goes for Fallout as well, is multiplayer. And some people out there are going to moan about this. They're probably going to be like, "Oh, I really want to play it single player," but tough. If you want to play single player, then still play it single player. But there should at least be the option there to play it multiplayer. At least I think so. I would love to play multiplayer, and I'm all up for single player games. Like Skyrim was probably one of the best games of last year, to me personally, and I think bringing that multiplayer element into it will just make it perfect. I don't know about you guys, like you might completely not want the idea of being able to play a multiplayer. It could be a complete load of rubbish, like it could not even happen, but if it did, I would definitely be playing on the multiplayer. I would jump on that bandwagon straight away. Yeah, so what do you think of that one? Let me know about that one. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you a lot about Game, as in the store Game, run by the Game Group, and that goes for Game Station as well. There's been some really big problems going on there. They've literally crawled themselves into about 130 mil worth of debt, and they've already started closing stores. And to me, that's really bad. Like Game. Electronics Boutique before that, Game Station, they've been a part of my childhood, like growing up, going in there, buying games when they came out, the midnight rushes for like the Call of Duties. They've been really, really good, and I've really enjoyed that whole atmosphere when you're there doing buying your game. It's really nice, and it's horrible to see that might end soon. Game themselves have got themselves into a load of debt, and this all really kicked off because of Mass Effect 3. So Mass Effect 3 had their pre-orders, which had limited edition for the with Game for the limited edition box set, and unfortunately, Game couldn't afford it. That's pretty much it. Game couldn't afford it, so that got pulled. They pulled the plug on that, and all of the limited edition pre-orders were cancelled. People got a gift voucher for all of the orders that they placed, and then those copies went off to somewhere else. So where it's like Amazon Play, all those type of places where you could buy it from there. So that pretty much started off the problem, and ever since then, there's been some big news coming out from Game to do with their debt problems, which is really, really bad. 130 million debt is not a good place to be, especially in this time. Like, there's a recession apparently coming back in, and you've just got yourself into 130 million debt. And how long has it been in that debt for? Like, this has been growing for a long time, and for us only really just to find out about it, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, because I really like the Game Group as it goes. They couldn't pay the creditors back. Apparently, they haven't got much long left. They've started closing stores. I know they've already closed about 50 to 60 stores, and it's only going to get worse from there. It doesn't really look like they can get themselves out of their debt. They need to claim a hell of a lot back to even get back onto like a stable margin, and I personally can't see that happening. It's a real shame. Like I say, it's part of my childhood. I think it's part of any gamer's childhood, like wandering down to Game or Game Station or EB when it was around, and picking up the newest game is a real good time, and I'm going to be ashamed to see that one go. So this brings me on to the next article that I want to go through with you. Secondhand games. Now, secondhand games is basically is why Game is collapsing. Apparently this is something they've done themselves, so it's no fault of anyone else's. They've been accepting second-hand games and they've been selling them off themselves, but they've been pushing these games. So obviously game makes full profit from any type of second-hand game that's sold. If they sell a new game, a percentage of that has to go off to the creator of the game, so they can make their money, obviously. So they need to make money from what they've been selling. But if game buy in a game and sell that off themselves, then they've made all the profit from it, and that way they haven't got to give any away. Obviously they gave some away for buying the game off you, but come on, it's not much money. Like, you sell a game these days, you barely get anything for it. It's not really worth it unless you're going to trade a game in which they'll give you a little bit more because you're going to pay more for the new game that you're buying. So that's pretty much why game got itself into debt. But the main thing that I want to cover on that one is there's been a lot of news around secondhand gaming is what's killing single player games. Now, I read an article on this which sounds really true to me. What it basically says is that when you buy a game, if you say you buy a single player game, so you buy it brand new on release day, you skip down to your nearest game store or Amazon or get it ordered online, whatever you do, you pay full price, so you pay £40 for it, £35 for your new game. Once you've played that single player game, what do you do with it then? So the first thing that I would think is possibly play it through one more time if it's really that good. If it's not that good, most people, or 99% of people, will trade it in. So they'll trade it in for something else. They'll put it on eBay because they've played the game. It's a single player game, so there's only so much you can do in that game unless you want to play it again, which you can only do so many times. And most people have got into that kind of mentality now that once you have bought a game, played it and done with it, you don't put it in a drawer, you sell it or you trade it in for something else, because places like Game are shouting about how they want all of your games to make it cheaper for you to buy another game. And doing so, obviously the creators are getting no money off this. So if you trade your game in for something else or just sell it on eBay, they've made nothing. But Game gets a copy of that game. So they've now got a copy of that secondhand game, which they will sell off then. And through that, the creator gets nothing and Game gets all of it, which in Game's point of view was probably a really good idea when they first started doing that. But as far as I'm aware now, they're in 130 mil worth of debt and fingers are being pointed directly at the secondhand games market. The way that I look at it is that if Game buys, say, 100,000 copies of a brand new game on release date, they make a massive fuss about it, and it's going to be this year's best single player or core game coming out this year. So they sell all 100,000 copies of that game. What do they do next? You'd think that they would buy more. So you'd think that they would buy tons more, and they'd keep selling them off. Wrong. That's not what they're doing. They're buying the games back off you with their massive advertisements that they're doing. So we want your games, so you can buy a brand new game and carry on from there. And that sounds awesome. And loads of people will do that because it sounds so awesome. And don't get me wrong, it is awesome. But for the games industry, that's what's killing them. That's what's killing single player and core player games. And that's why places like Game are getting refused credit when it comes to games like Mass Effect 3. Because they will sell the game under the pretenses that they're going to get that game back. So they sell it to you, you play it, you trade it back into them. They've then got a second-hand copy, which they can then sell again. And they're going to keep getting the original version, the original sales back as second-hand games. And that will just keep churning through. Because even if you buy it second-hand, you'll play it, what are you going to do? You're going to trade it back in again. They'll get the game once again, they'll sell it, they'll trade it, they'll sell it, they'll trade it. So when it comes to that, all Game will do is just buy one bulk amount of the game, sell it off on release day and wait for the second-hand revenue from it to start churning through, thus giving the games industry nothing. So the creators of the game will get one lump sum for that game and then they'll get no more after that because everything's then generated from second-hand revenue. So the question I have to you is, how are you going to stop that? So what should we do to combat that, to make sure places like Game don't close because of that? Obviously, no fault of their own. They've been doing that. And it seemed like the right thing to them. So obviously they thought it was right. They wouldn't have done it otherwise. They're obviously not going to do stuff to make themselves lose money. That's a ridiculous business plan and that would never happen. So what do you think could be done to combat that? I know there's places like Steam, and don't be wrong, I use Steam all the time. I buy pretty much most of my games from Steam just because it's conventional, it's easy, and it makes sense. I know some of the prices on there when they come out are extensive. You could go into Game and you could buy a second-hand copy for 30%. Well, you could minus 30% off it and buy it for that price, but then you've got a second-hand game, and you're joining that crowd of second-hand gamers, which is killing the industry and is killing places like Game. So because you're buying your second-hand games, you're going to potentially kill all the gaming industries that are giving you those games. They're not making any money out of it. So then they have to start depending on DLCs. So we all moan that there's too many DLCs. You buy a game and then they bring out a billion DLCs. So why didn't you make the game when it was originally done? Why didn't you make it so that there's no need for any more DLCs? But they need to make the DLCs, because if you're not going to keep buying new versions of the game, or the companies that sell it to you aren't going to buy new versions of the game, then they have to make their money from somewhere. And it's just a horrible, horrible circle that seems to be going around at the minute. So how to stop that? Generally, my view, I think, stop secondhand gaming altogether. If people want to buy a game, you buy the game for the price that it's brought out at. I don't know how you'd stop secondhand gaming, because places like eBay, all of your like backstore traders, when it comes to like buying secondhand games, there's millions of shops out there that will buy secondhand games off you and sell them off again that aren't like trading standards approved. So they're nothing like Game that just like you'd go to like a market stall and buy a secondhand game. Mainly, I would say eBay though. eBay is probably the biggest one. So many games get sold in there secondhand. It's unbelievable, and there's no real way you can regulate that unless eBay turns around and goes, "No, you can't put your game on here because you're killing the industry." They don't care. They don't care at all, and they never will care about that. They're making money, and they're not doing anything wrong because they're just selling stuff that you're selling, and they make a cut of it. So I don't. It's not eBay's fault for doing that. But I think the Game should stop selling secondhand games. They should stop accepting secondhand games. I know that they don't make so much money off selling a brand new copy because the percentage of that will go through to the game developers themselves. But if they spent that money, the game developers will lower the price for them to buy more copies. So it's a slow but winning situation. So eventually it will turn around. They won't have to spend so much money. For example, on the Mass Effect 3, so EA wouldn't have asked for so much money for Mass Effect 3, and Game would have been able to give them the money for that to fill all the orders. And that's the way I look at it. So I don't know what your views are on it. Let me know, because I really want to know that one. I really want to know what you think about it. I really want to know how you think we're going to combat the problem of game industries closing, and whether eventually it's all going to go digital. So that's what I think. I think eventually the game system of going into a shop and buying a game is going to fail. It is failing at the minute. Do you think you can stop it? I don't know, but let me know. I would love to know. I think anything that you have to come out with, any opinions that you come through to me with, I will look at and I will read them all accordingly and judge them individually. So that's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I've gone on a bit of a rant, but it's something that means a lot to me and something that I really want to get out there, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could get back to me with some of your feedback on the subject, and let me know what you think about it. So yeah, I will see you for the next episode in a week. In the meantime, check out some of our other videos. We've been doing some Minecraft stuff. There's been some stuff on there for Spiral Knights, which is awesome, so definitely check that game out. It's free to play, so no moaning, just go and download it. It's great. And yeah, so that's it. So I will see you soon next week for the second update. See you later.